Good afternoon. Welcome back to the channel. This video is not financial advice, not financial advisor. Do your own research, make your own decisions. Okay, guys, welcome back. So this video is going to be about orthogonal persistence and autonomous AI-powered applications on the web. And for the sake of this video, we're trying to solve for the least amount of manual intervention possible. I'm not going to give a long technical definition for orthogonal persistence. I'm just going to refer to it as application code and application data sticking together and persisting. Because that's not the way things currently work with Web 2-based applications, it does require a lot of manual intervention. And there are other things just because of all the complexity on Web 2 that require manual intervention. So I'll try not to forget about that as I'm going throughout this video. I'm going to try to explain this in layman's terms to the best of my ability. I do want to lower expectations on this video right now because yesterday a wrench got thrown in my plans and to some degree my video, my research, because I had a lot of questions about the Web 2 AI app builders. Because if I'm going to be comparing and contrasting how this would work on ICP versus how it would work on Web 2, when I get to how would it work on Web 2, the answer is it depends. It depends on the stack that's being used. It depends on many different factors, right? But I saw the Replit AI app builder come out, or it didn't come out yesterday. I just saw a video from them for the first time yesterday. And so I started looking into them. And I want to make this more of an open discussion than anything else and a conversation starter because I was looking into Neon and it does look like Neon might be a better solution than anything else for Web 2 AI app builders, just because of the flexibility that it offers. But I'll get into all that as I go throughout the rest of the video. Okay. But I do just want to lower expectations, and I will be all over the place, and I will have to probably do follow-up videos on this topic in the future. But why this is such a big deal is because if you're on ICP and let's just use Terry as an example. Terry's prompting the AI model, can you build me a custom application for my crypto blogs? A couple minutes later, shoots out a URL, and Terry opens the custom application, and there is his crypto blog app, right? That's step one, the initial build out and deployment of the custom application. So let's put that in one category and separate that from the ongoing managing, updating, and modifying, customizing the application based on the user's request. Let's put that functionality in its own category because this gets into the second part, the managing, updating, modifying, and customizing. This gets into the problem on Web 2, which is application code and application data are separate. And if you make a change to the application code, more times than not, depending how you have everything set up, and this gets into the problem of Web 2, where there's so much complexity, there's so many different ways things could be set up. Depending on the change that you make, too, you might have to go update the database, and that would require manual intervention. And so if you're just thinking about this on an ongoing basis, not the initial build out, right? The ongoing modifying, customizing that application by artificial intelligence were to make a change to the application code, more times than not, there would need to be some update or change to the database. All right. And this introduces the element of manual intervention, which is not suitable for autonomous AI powered applications, a web run by autonomous AI agents, so on and so forth. Okay. After Terry's blog, his custom application for crypto blogs is sent back to him. A couple days later, he wants to add more functionality, more features with the application. All right, so can you make these changes to the app? Can you add X, Y, and Z? Prompts his AI model, sends back a URL a few minutes later, and the changes have been made. And it doesn't require any manual intervention from Terry because this is all ICP has an embedded system architecture, whereas Web 2 has an integrated system architecture. Everything is in one full stack solution. And application code, application data stick together. All right. So let's move to Web 2. How would this work on Web 2? The answer is it depends. It depends what type of stack you're looking at, how they have everything set up. It depends on many different variables. All right. And this just, again, highlights the complexity of Web 2. And the more and more different types of systems and the more and more dependencies you have, it just increases the bigger the list of things that could go wrong. All right. The core issue is that application code and application data are separate. That's the core issue. You can create solutions that mitigate this issue to some degree, that make it more seamless, but that's the problem. And there's no quick fix to this problem. All you're going to be able to do is create more third parties to just lay over top of this, and it inherits all the problems of Web 2. All right. But let's just look at an example here. A Web 2 custom AI app builder, and you ask, let's just say they're using Google Cloud, and for the database management system, they're using Postgres, so a relational type database. All right. So create me an app for tracking my workouts, and it shoots you back an application for tracking your workouts. Right now, you as the end user, you only see what's on your app. Right. You don't see everything behind the scenes. Right. So you don't see what's going on with the database. But this gets into SQL or SQL versus NoSQL. But we're just going to say, for the sake of this example, that this custom Web 2 AI app builder is using a SQL database. That would be set up initially to track your custom workouts, right? Everything has to be configured the right way. And if you're thinking about a SQL or relational database, think tables, columns, and rows. Lots and lots of tables and columns and rows. If you have a very basic app, it's not going to be a lot of tables, columns, and rows. But as everything scales out, more and more tables, columns, rows, and there's a relationship between these different tables. Okay. So it would be set up specifically for the application tracking your workouts. So if the next day you were to prompt this AI model, let's just say, assuming this functionality was available through the application, if the very next day, okay, this tracks my workouts, but I also want it to track my meals, my calories, and a couple other things as well, and all my cardio and everything else. And so you've changed the nature of the application at that point. And so you're changing the application code to add, let's track X, Y, and Z. That will need to be reflected in your database. It wouldn't be structured. The database wouldn't be structured. The tables, columns, rows would not be set up to track certain things that weren't a part of the application and that it wasn't set up to do. So if you're making changes on the fly with these AI applications on Web 2, all of these things come into play. And even more than this, okay, this is just isolating one topic specifically. But all of this has to be configured properly too. All of it has to be configured properly. So if you were to make this change, some way, whether through manual intervention or maybe they have some third party set up to where AI can actually make certain changes like this, it has to be reflected in your database, because there's issues with losing data when you make changes and updates on Web 2. There's issues with your website crashing. Everything has to be configured the right way. And because you have so many different overlapping systems with Web 2 applications, so many different overlapping systems, it just increases the likelihood of something going wrong with one of those systems because you have so many different dependencies. Okay. As opposed to on ICP, you have this standardized model, standardized interoperability software system to software system, because everything is in a canister. Simplifies a lot of different things for artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence having to deal with massive amounts of complexity, software system to software system, is not an ideal web framework. Okay, so if we're trying to solve for the least amount of manual intervention possible on Web 2, as you're making changes to the application, as you're changing the nature of the app, that has to be reflected in your database. All right, so just grasp that. And a lot of times, more times than not, and up until now, throughout the last 10, 15 years of web development, depending on the change, you'll likely have to have some type of manual intervention updating the database. Yeah. Okay. So pause on all of this real quick. Okay. I'm going to get into some things about Replit. I haven't looked into them, but so much. But you have to look at this at scale to see the full picture implications. All right. Because they might Web 2, there might be solutions on Web 2 that help mitigate this problem to some degree, that help offer a little bit more streamlined approach or a little bit more integrated approach um, through solutions like Neon. I looked into Neon yesterday. It does seem like to me this is a new age type serverless cloud database system that would be more tailored towards AI type applications. Just seems more flexible, more functionality. But that's why I wanted to make this an open conversation, because I would like the technical community's feedback on this. If you get a chance to look into Neon, looking into it as it relates to its functionality with AI powered applications and the flexibility that it can offer versus more traditional database management systems, even though it is a Postgres type system. It has more functionality because of how everything's been set up from my research that I did. Okay. But it's not the only issue that the application data and application code are separate. That's not the only issue here. Okay. That's just looking at one part. You still have you still have all the 7 layers of cybersecurity. You still have all these other providers that are tied in to your application, and all updates, everything has to be configured the right way, system to system, across all these different types of systems. All right. And so that's when we get into the whole conversation about at scale, you have tons and tons and tons of people that are making changes to their custom application on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. So this is not happening in an isolated environment. It's happening at scale. 100 million, a billion people are doing this. And day-to-day, they're making modifications to the application code. There might be certain solutions on Web 2 that, again, make this more seamless, but there's going to be so many different examples that are either you have to limit what types of changes can be made because it would require manual intervention, or you're going to have to just set up something to where you have manual intervention and it's just not an ideal working framework for autonomous AI-powered applications. Yeah. And it still inherits, everything on Web 2 inherits all the same issues. You don't own your own data. It's on top of a $10 trillion cybercrime problem, and there's no transparency into what AI is tracking, doing, recording, anything. Yep. More third parties would not solve for the numerous other issues on Web 2, right? So let's just say that this Neon solution offers a better model for this problem, okay? And I think it does, but I'd like other people to look into that too. Let's just say that's the case. And this is why my video got completely thrown off, because I had to incorporate this in, like, I finally had a good example to use, so I had to incorporate this into the video. So I apologize that this is all over the place. But assuming this creates a more seamless or a better solution for that on Web 2 specifically, you still have all the other problems of Web 2 that you can't solve with third parties. You can't keep adding third parties onto an overly complex web to make it less complex and to fix all the problems. You can just create isolated, temporary fixes that make things a little bit easier. It may reduce friction with one issue, all right? So it may reduce friction with one issue, but everything else, all the other problems are still there. And there's a long list. I'm not going to get into all of them in this video of other differentiators for ICP. And I think Replit and other AI app builders also deploying on ICP, there's a huge value proposition for that. I just need to dig deeper into how they have everything set up. I just need more time to dig deeper into how they have everything set up, and I can do a legitimate compare and contrast. Okay, let's just take the same type of custom application. Let's look at how it will work on ICP versus how it would work on the current setup that they have with all the different providers that they're using, and why ICP is overwhelmingly a better, bigger picture solution here long term, right? Because it's the earliest days of AI on ICP. But companies, AI app builders like Replit, the value proposition for them also deploying on ICP, because if they deploy on ICP, guess what? You have an embedded payment system that has instant settlement. You don't have to use Stripe. You don't have to use firewalls and cybersecurity and IT and all those other things because there's embedded security. You have an embedded database. You have all these things solved for. Okay? So let me see what else I got here. This ties into all the conversations we've been having about embedded system architecture and integrated system architecture. And you still have all the other dependencies and all those other issues. And if you just think about, 6, 7, 8 different software systems just to have one working application on Web 2, and then you think about all these people at scale making changes and all the different things that could go wrong with that on top of a $10 trillion cybercrime problem, and you still have all the other problems that aren't fixed, like data ownership and everything else, right? There's just way too much complexity. So really what we're talking about here is these two aspects being separate. And even though there could be solutions, things like potentially Neon, that make this a little bit easier, ICP just solves for this and solves for every other issue ever relating to Web 2, cybercrime, and artificial intelligence. So a partial solution for this that doesn't even completely solve for this is not going to really, it's going to be a drop in the ocean, because ICP solves for this, including all the other issues in one full stack solution. And the big thing here is the application's ability to transform, to be customized, to change, the full range of functionality. And if you want, we're talking about flexibility and rigidity. And the Web 2 model is extremely rigid. Third parties can make it a little bit less rigid, but not but so much. And if you want to have autonomous AI powered applications running at scale, and you want to have hundreds of millions, billions of people changing their application, changing their custom website, whatever it is, on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis, and AI models autonomously powering the web, you have to have the right framework in place. And the complexity of Web 2, in my opinion, is just not going to work. They will be able to create some types of Web 2 application builders, but they're going to inherit all the same problems of Web 2 and all the properties of Web 2. Whereas if those very same Web 2 AI app builders were to deploy on ICP, along with not just exclusively on ICP, but just as you're just including a bigger list of service providers, okay, and partners and strategic partners. You also deploy on ICP, and you can offer your users a value proposition that you can't offer on Web 2. If you're Replit, you can't offer ownership of that application. It's on Google Cloud, right? And you can't offer a certain level of security and or just general data ownership, privacy. You can't, your value prop can't include things like that just inherit all the problems of Web 2. And so you have a significantly, if you're a company like Replit, you have a significantly different value proposition to your users about why they should use you if you additionally deploy on ICP, not just Web 2. Okay? So this was kind of about orthogonal persistence, but it was also kind of about a number of other things, and I do apologize. So yes, orthogonal persistence going to be needed for a smart web, a web powered by autonomous AI models and applications. And in my opinion, it's probably, it solves for one of the biggest issues on Web 2 with web development and with flexibility with web-based applications that requires so much manual intervention when you're talking about across the entire web. When certain changes are made to application code, and then all of a sudden, oh shit, we have to go stop what we're doing and go update the database, test everything out, make sure everything is configured perfectly fine. We still have tons of other systems tied into this as well. All of that's gone. All of that's gone with this solution. Guys, that's all I have for this video. I apologize. Again, I had to change everything up yesterday when I started looking into all of this. And it's hard to make this comparison because you kind of have to nail down on specifics. But the big thing is just combining these two things. I think I have one slide here that probably shows it better than any. Here it is. All right. And so there is no real solution for this at all. Even things that make it a little bit more seamless do not officially solve for this problem. ICP does solve for this problem, including all the other problems of Web 2, all the other issues with cybercrime, and all the very specific things that AI needs on the web to put the right guardrails, governance, and everything else in place to offer the most optimized web framework for AI. That's it. I'm done. Not financial advice. Do your own research. I apologize. This video is all over the place. I'll have more to say. It was just, yeah, that's it. Take care. Have a good day. And I'll see you in the next video.